Fleeing from the Cylon tyranny, the Borgcast Galactica leads a ragtag fugitive fleet of feedbackers on a lonely quest for a shining drink known as beer. Hello, friend!
Hello!
Welcome to Borgcast Galactica 1.3!
Last time on Battlestar Galactica.
So we discovered there was no bear in BJ and the Bear.
No.
It's another chimp. Possibly the same chimp that played Muffet, we're not sure. And Wayne Peters pointed out it was also on ITV back in the day, apparently. And we've had this from Jeff Hyman. So I'd share a quick note about BJ and the Bear, which is a highly unfortunate title. I never actually seen the show, but know it by its reputation. It was an attempt to cash in on the brief trucker craze of that era, and featured a long-haul trucker travelling across the US with his best friend, a chimpanzee named Bear. Cursory research didn't find anything to the contrary, so I choose to believe that the chimp who played Bear is the same chimp in the Muffet costume. Well, it's the same company that produced it. It's Glenn A. Larson. Quite possible.
Entirely possible.
And we got a
Tweet of the week.
So, Becky Black has tweeted, great theme tune, great practical model spaceships, a chimp in a Daggett suit, John Colicos making a meal of the scenery, and one of my teenage crushes. Battlestar Galactica, what more could I want? Well, this week...
maybe some better stories.
Rather a lot. Yes. Yes.
We start this week with The Lost Warrior, a.k.a. a fistful of qubits.
Recon probe 3 to Galactica. I am under attack.
Well, then we're going to have to hide it.
He has a right to know.
No! I will not have Puppis going after the thing that killed his father. Spending the rest of his life as a warrior?
Boxy's lost one parent. He's not going to lose two.
You don't scare me.
Apollo, please do something. They'll kill him.
Booty's told me about your gun. Your gun is the only chance we have.
Okay, so it starts off all right, in that Apollo is under attack, and he's saying he needs help, and Blue Squadron come and help me, and whatever. And Adama's ignoring it all. He explains it's for Cylon ears only. The idea is that he's leading them away from the Galactica. Except the Cylons go, we're supposed to be being led away, let's follow back on his original course, so it doesn't really work.
And he pulls off the pull the brakes on manoeuvre again, which works every time. Do Cylons never learn? I suppose they get blown up every time. So
yeah, I suppose.
We're not going back to explain that particular manoeuvre, are we?
No, I guess not. Then you have a boy and his bloody pony.
Okay, this is Puppis. That's the boy. Which apparently means poop deck. Yes, make of that what you will.
Poop. We're calling him Poop.
It's Puppis is part of the constellation. Most of these names, not all of them, but most of them are parts of constellations. It's the one that makes up Jason and the Argonaut ship, the Argo Navis, apparently. There you are.
Right. But it's Aquelus, the place of horses.
Yes, the planet of horses. Very subtle, this, isn't it, for a Western-themed story?
It's My Little Pony, isn't it? I don't know.
I don't know. My Little Pony never growled like these do.
Oh, they're weird. And they've
Puppis
been painted.
Puppis has that annoying, whiny kiddie accent. Oh no, we've got two kids in one show.
I know.
Really?
And there's a woman pointing a gun at Apollo.
She's Vela.
Vela wants a fella.
Vela lost a fella.
Oh.
Now she's about to gain another one.
And the boy says she can't shoot, and then she shines a light, and he's
blinded by the light, wrapped up like a deuce, another runner in the night.
And then they have to hide the ship, but he doesn't say why. And then, meanwhile, on the Galactica, Boxy's missing his dad, which is fair enough, so he spends the night with the pilots, and you're like, what, really? Wow.
Yeah, okay, so he just wanders onto the bridge.
Well, it's like fucking, I said it at the time, it's like fucking Wesley Crusher.
Yep, yeah, it's as bad as, except he's even younger.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Starbuck's quite sweet, so suggesting he basically has a night with the lads, and then Boomer nearly puts his foot in it, saying, yeah, we can share a few fruit juices.
Yeah. And then, back on the My Little Pony planet, they're talking about Red Eye. Oh, what a surprise, it's a Cylon.
I quite like the way it's introduced, though, because Red Eye's turning up, so Starbuck hides, and then you hear that, wow, wow. It's like, we know what Red Eye is.
Yeah. And the Cylons heard a noise, but Booty Call, who's...
It's the Greek for herdsman, apparently, and it's part of the constellation
Bootus.
of Northern Sky, Booty.
booties.
Yes.
Right, know his booty call.
It's a booty call. It's a booty call. It's a booty. It's a booty call.
And you recognised him?
I did! And I eventually worked out where from.
Yes,
The
various places.
A-Team!
Yes, Lance Legault, who played Colonel Decker in the A-Team. He replaced Colonel Lynch in Season 2. And for a change, he's kind of a good guy, if an idiot in this one, but normally he's bad guys. He was also the Klingon Captain Kutemok in The Next Generation's Emissary, where they discover the ship that's been out lost in space on the Tong.
Let me see that tongue.
He was also an Elder God in Mortal Kombat Annihilation, so we've got a quality actor here.
Yeah.
Unsurprisingly, he was in BJ for the Bear. Had a reoccurring role in Magnum P.I. He was in Buck Rogers as the villainous Flag.
Nice.
Knight Rider, Automan, Airwolf. But yes, it's 18
Was he in
that we
Street
know.
Hawk?
Didn't find a reference to Street Hawk, actually, so maybe he wasn't in all the Glenn A. Lastman, but most of it.
Oh, okay. Anyway, so Uncle Booties comes out and he's able to deflect attention away. And you find out that Poop's dad was a pilot. But whatever her name was.
Vela. That's part of a sail of a ship, apparently. It's another nautical one.
Right. Sailing bint.
Sailing bint.
Wants to hide stuff from her son, because that always works out.
Yes. Yeah. Never be open and honest to your kids. It's much better to screw them up in the long term.
Yeah. And then apparently her husband Martin, that's a normal name.
It is, but he's from the colonies, you see, although except they don't have ordinary names either, but there we are.
No, he went for the Cylon and he got killed. And then Booty Call wants Apollo to use his gun, and Apollo's like, no, that's not, because he says, there's a risk that he's going to just go for every single human there.
Yeah, he's worried that there might be other Cylons around, so
Yeah.
basically he starts turning up with a colonial blaster, then Red Eye's going to know who he is, and that's going to call down fire and retribution on everybody. So you can kind of understand him not going in all gun blazing.
Yeah.
To start with.
But Booty Call's like, if you're not man enough to use a gun, he's like, there's no such thing as being man enough to use a gun, you twat.
This is the Wild West, what do you expect?
Oh, it's just fucked up and shite. And then back on Galactica, you have a delightful scene of Boxy beating everyone at Cards for Jelly Beans.
Oh, it is kind of sweet.
No.
Oh, I quite like it. Well, they are sweet.
They're blatantly letting him win.
Yeah, kind of, well-ish. And...
Not kind of. Yes. He's 4 or something.
And you've got to love how they're sacrificing their booze for his sake as well.
And they're all having fruit juice.
Yes, because Gillies, according to Boxy, it's supposed to be Giles, but he pronounces his name Gillies. It's how I would have pronounced it at his age, to be fair.
This fruit juice is just great. Yeah, it's terrific.
And then Cassie tells them off for smoking, which
Yeah.
is fair enough.
Yeah, she can tell she's a med tech because she knows about passive smoking way ahead of everybody else in the 1970s. Well done.
Yeah. And she says it's past Boxy's bedtime and it needs to wash his face and stuff. Wash behind your ears. Meanwhile, back on Planet My Little Pony, they've got Shagpile on the tables because of course that makes sense. And they all wear fucking metal cowboy hats.
Yeah, because this is the future West.
Ugh.
And they have electronic Western music.
Oh, it's fucking awful. It makes me want to kill people.
It's coming from a weird space piano being played by a dude in the corner. We get to meet Lacerta, who's played by Claude Earl Jones, who was also in the A-Team as a baddie. What a surprise. His name means lizard, don't you know? And it's a bizarre performance. It's part Baron Silas Greenback, part JR, isn't it? It's weird.
It's really quite odd. And it also reminds me a bit of another character that I can't I can't place either the name of the character or where I know it from. I can just see him in my mind's eye. It's one of those things that at some point...
This is going to make for great podcasting then.
Yeah, so if I remember, you'll put something in at some point.
Yes, we'll have to invest in some mind's eye vision so people can understand what it is the hell
anyway,
you're talking about.
You may or may not remember... No,
almost. Oh, the tension's going to kill us.
Doctor Who.
Right. There's been a lot of that.
Yeah. That's not going to narrow
Only
it down.
50-odd years of television programmes to work out who that's reminded you of. Let's go and watch it all now to find out. Back in a bit, folks, like several years.
I'm sorry. He's just a bit twatty. Sorry. Never mind. It'll come to me, or it won't. Anyway, I don't like him. He's a twat. But he's kind of like an ineffectual twat, somehow. He doesn't really seem that threatening.
Well, he's only threatening because he's got Red Eye backing him up. That's the point.
Right. And basically, Apollo sort of says he has to impress him because he wants to work for him.
Mm-hmm.
Fine. And then Pooh is out and and there's a wolf.
A lupus? These aren't wolves. I mean, they're obviously not wolves, actually. It's clearly a very friendly dog that's running towards the screen.
Yeah. Anyway, he kills it. Hooray. Or something. And then you've got Adama in his office with his decanter of iron brew.
Yes. Tasty.
And Ty wants to go after Apollo, as does everybody else. So Adama agrees that they're going to launch a patrol to try and point Apollo back towards the fleet. Meanwhile, Booty Call's got fed up, so he's going after the fat cat, and unsurprisingly gets shot. And then the kid is going to go and shoot him as well, and he's going to get shot as well because of Fat Twat, whose name I can't remember, who's from a Doctor Who at some point.
Lacerta.
Right. Anyway.
But he's definitely not in Doctor Who, by the way. I would.
No, he reminds me of a character from a Doctor Who, but yeah, I know, he's just an arse. Anyway, Apollo takes all the guns away and it all calms down, and Vela, who wants a fella, calls him over and sort of hugs him and says, no, but other people will understand, or something. And then one of the women, who I think you're supposed to assume because it's the not Wild West that she's a prostitute, but I'm not sure.
She's kind of Lacerta's moll. She's Macy and she's played by Carol Baxter. We've seen her before as the woman in the elevator on Carillon, right back in the pilots.
Because I'm going to remember that.
The one with the big feather in her hair. They're the first ones to discover the Ovions.
No, I'm not going to remember a fucking woman in an elevator.
Well, you've not been listening to me, because when I was talking about that episode, I said we'll see her later on. Well, this is the person.
Right.
Pay attention, 007. Duh. She also played 2 different nurses in the A-Team. Fancy not knowing that.
Fine.
But most interestingly of all,
yes,
she later wrote 2 episodes of the original She-Ra series.
Right.
Which is a bit of a bizarre thing to have on your CV, but well done you.
Well, her writing is better than her acting.
Yes.
Anyway, she says that, what his name is, Jakarta.
Lacerta, not Jakarta, that's somewhere in...
Oh, sorry, I'm still obsessed with that nice
Malaysia?
coffee you found. The Java Lava.
The Java Lava coffee, yes.
Yeah, anyway.
It's been keeping you awake for hours.
It has, yes. Anyway, she says that he found a Cylon and 2 others in the mountains, and so, of course, Apollo's interested because that means there's 3 of them. It's a ship, he can get fuel and get back. And then the Cylon appears and says, uh-oh.
Yeah, as I'm sure Cylons are supposed to as robots.
Yeah.
It's straight out of a Warner Brothers cartoon, that moment, isn't it?
Oh, it's terrible. Unsurprisingly, Apollo blows him up.
Yeah, I like the way his eye goes out.
Yeah.
That's to show he's dead, that's quite good.
Although the explosion helps.
Yes, true.
And then finally, Vela, who wants a fella, says that her husband's ship has fuel. Why she didn't say that before? Well, it's because she's Vela, she wants a fella, you see, she doesn't want him going anywhere. It's because he's mentioning Boxy. And so, of course, Apollo finds the fleet just in time. And then you have Pooh and his mum lying on their back looking at the stars like Timon, Pumbaa and Simba from The Lion King.
They look stoned.
And why did I watch that episode? What did it do for the general plot of anything? Why does it exist? Kill me now.
Well, the plot's apparently based on the 1953 movie Shane. Not that either of us have seen that.
No.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a colony that's on the edge of colonial settled space, which kind of makes some sense if they're heading out, so that's at least sensible.
Yeah, but I mean, please, futuristic westerns with fucking metal hats. Really?
Playing, yes, Western music on electric keyboard. Yeah.
It's just shite.
It's not great, but it's sadly better than the next episode, so it sort of seems better as a result in hindsight.
Oh, it's just terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can't argue with me. It's terrible.
It's not great. I wouldn't go as far as say it's terrible, but
no, it is.
The next one's terrible. This one's just bad.
No, this is terrible. The next one is even worse.
Well, let's find out what other people thought, shall we? We've heard from Doreen. There were way too many annoying kids in this one.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
However, this did help resolve a disagreement my husband and I had regarding whether lupus meant wolf or rabbit. So our time wasn't entirely wasted. I don't know what rabbit is, but yes, lupus is definitely lupine and all that comes from wolf. We had a good laugh at the thought of giant aggressive carnivorous rabbits on the cowboy planet. Now I'm going to our Monty Python place. Great big pointy teeth. Also, talking of funny mental imagery, when I realised that several of the horses were painted, rather than Apollo riding some weird zebra horse, I started imagining horses having makeup calls. What party shop did the props team raid for those naff plastic cowboy hats? It was supposed to be metal, but they looked crap.
They were naff. They were terrible. And we've heard from Jeff, who writes, The Lost Warrior was a standard Western story with some really silly production ideas. The aluminium foil cowboy hats and synthesizer saloon music were especially amusing to me. I'm pretty sure the story was an almost exact copy of the movie Shane, which Vic and Nog were enamoured with in DS9's episode It's Only a Paper Moon.
Oh, yes.
I really liked Apollo's speech towards the end. Richard Hatch continues to impress. Red Eye was pretty cool. I liked the little touch of all the dents from the previous failed attempts to bring down bring him down.
Yeah. Yes, they rather ruined the Cylon costume. I guess they won't be able to use that one again. But yes, they were impressive dents. It was another thing that made me laugh. Every time he sat down on the chair, there was this almighty creak.
It was.
You expect it to collapse underneath him.
Or for him to lift one cheek ever so slightly and say, excuse me.
How does a silent fart? Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
We have also heard from the Llama God. This was recorded before he went down under, so to speak, for now.
Oh, yes, this is okay. You're saying this because this doesn't look like anything to me. Okay, then, we continue our run of stories that parallel biblical issues by retelling the story where the lone gunslinger comes into town, and I'm running out of ideas here, and I have no idea where they're going. And having heard your feedback now and realising that if this is based on the Book of Mormon, which I've never read, then maybe there's a story about this in there. So this week's episode features a western town, androids controlled by artificial intelligence that may or may not be aware of who they are, what they are. Yet no, unfortunately, this isn't Westworld. This is unfortunately more of what I was expecting from Battlestar Galactica, the series, than we've been getting in the previous 5 episodes now. So this is very much Monster of the Week, offshoot Adventure of the Week, but they're not really connected to the main plot, and it kind of really shows. I've done a bit of digging into this, and I'm sorry if you've already brought this up in a previous cast or even in this cast. It turns out that maybe that Battlestar Galactica actually wasn't originally conceived to be a TV series. It was just meant to be a series of mini-series, and as such they weren't prepared for it when they went to a full series, and so this is why we get this and the next episode being a couple of really weird standalone tales that don't really tie into anything. Out the gate you can kind of clearly see that I'm unimpressed. Apollo gets sacrificed and is forced to crash land on a bad map painting where he ends up going against the local town that's, oh god, it's a Cylon, and it could be interesting, but there's just way too much mawkishness and talking about the interpersonal issues. Then there's not a problem with interpersonal issues, but we've never met these characters before. I don't care about them, and they're just all completely overplayed. We have the distraught mother, we've got the crazed cousin, the overbearing sheriff. This could have been fun, but it was also played with way too much seriousness. And Richard Hatch, although he has been good and can be good, he's just overplaying the earnest part way too much, and it just seems like a bit of a tedious tale, which ultimately goes nowhere because he shoots down the Cylon, and I know he's got to get the parts and everything to get his Viper flying again, but it just kind of seems to just end. It's like they kind of went, there's a shootout, and then I know what happens. So, the only good things about the episode really are the scenes on the Galactica, which, I mean, again, yeah, they do feature the little kid, and they have to, but they're kind of saved by the fact that, well, first of all, you realise that the Galactica continues to have terrible security on the same level as the Enterprise D, given that the Boxy just walks onto the bridge without any issue. But Dirk Benedict, who shows, another side of Starbuck. Starbuck's just not a grizzly warrior who doesn't care about anything else. He seems to really care about Boxy, and the fact that obviously his friend Apollo is missing. It's really sweet to see in his acting and the way that he takes Boxy under his wing and looks after him. I love that. And I do actually remember the scene where they're playing poker, or whatever the card game was, using jelly beans. I remember that one from childhood, so that stuck with me, because I think that always seemed like a good idea. What's the point of money? Jelly beans are much better. There we go. There, I think we may have sold Star Trek there as well. The Federation doesn't have money, they just have jelly beans, because, that's much more fun for everyone. So, yeah, I wasn't particularly impressed by this episode. Oh, and the villagers have hats made out of tinfoil. I mean, come on, what the fuck's that about? I know it's a space western, but come on. Alright, let's go to the next episode.
Yeah, slow in places and overplayed, yes.
Yes. It's a western town in a dead-end world.
Is that the original lyrics?
No, it's West End
Town.
In a western town, a dead-end world, the eastern boys and western girls.
All right, I'm never going to hear it as anything other than Western Town now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, that's where my brain went.
Fair enough.
We might have a tune.
We might have a tune, yes. Very good.
And yes, absolutely the same level of security as the Enterprise D. Yeah. And I think maybe the Federation does have jelly beans. Maybe that does answer the makes as much sense as anything else.
Yeah, the card game is Pyramid, which I think is something that crops up in the new series as well.
Yeah, it does.
And funny enough, we didn't mention this when we were reviewing the episode because it really is sort of passed over very quickly. But it does actually have a moral. The reason for existing is that moral at the end that Apollo teaches Pupius, which is violence is not good. Okay, that was what it was leading up to. It's like, wow, profound. I think Richard Hatch does his best with what he's been given, but
what he's given is poop.
Puppies, yes.
Yeah. It's just shite.
We've heard from Ol.
Hello, Peter and Anne-Marie. It's Ol here, and I've just watched The Lost Warrior. Yeah, it's not great, is it? Maybe it's just me. I know Westerns I find really boring. I just don't have the cultural references for them, but I didn't engage with this at all. So you have Apollo landing on a planet with basically cow farmers and, as far as I can tell, hairdressers, given what the kid looks like. That's a pretty improbable bit of coiffure for a dirt farming jackass like him, but whatever, that's what he looks like. And yeah, there's a Cylon gunslinger and a corrupt sheriff. I don't know, you think about the writer's room for Battlestar Galactica and they go, right, we've done 3 episodes of extinction of the human race and aliens and insect aliens eating people and planets exploding and mythology and pyramids and Serena dying and bereavement and what will we do next? Oh, well, I've got this old script for Rawhide that we could just bodge out. Oh, yeah, that'll do. Fuck it. Whatever. Like I say, I don't like Westerns, but all they've done here is, as I say, dig out an old script of Rawhide or Gunsmoke or whatever, stick everyone with tin hats, paint some stripes on horses, and that's basically it, isn't it? It's not that it's badly acted. Everyone seems to be taking it as seriously as it needs to be. I think the fact that the villain of the piece, the sheriff, or not the sheriff of the town, but the landlord of the town, or whatever his role is, doesn't really get any comeuppance. Yeah, bad things are probably going to happen to him, but he's still got his lackeys, and there's every chance that by the time Apollo leaves, a few days later, everything's going to be back to normal. Just there won't be a metallic gunslinger; it will just be someone else. In terms of everything else, there's a B plot on the Galactica of Blue Squadron looking after Boxy that lasts about 10 minutes. I know we shouldn't be jumping ahead like this, but I can't see the new Battlestar Galactica version of Adama putting up with a kid just running up onto his bridge to say goodnight. I don't see that going down with Edward J. Olmos somehow. I just don't see it being the way he operates. But Lorne Greene, good with kids. He's no Captain Picard in first season of Next Generation anyway. In that he clearly likes Boxy. He's God knows why. No one else would, but he clearly likes Boxy. He's clearly taken to him. You almost feel that quite a lot of time has passed since the last one by this time. That Boxy and Apollo have really bonded. You know, yes, they are father and son, and that's just the way it is. Adama is granddad, and that's just the way it is. And yeah, Boxy's forgotten all about his mum. Which, I mean, I know kids bounce, but yeah, whatever. What else was I thinking about this one? Not much, really, to be honest. The last thing, we have this woman on this planet who's got this kid, fine, and her husband was a colonial warrior, and she's known all along where his ship was and where the fuel was that could get Apollo back to his family and his people, and she doesn't tell him until right at the end. What a bitch. Why was she doing that? Was she expecting him to hang around? Has she got a thing for space travellers? Maybe. I mean, Richard Hatch is quite attractive, so probably that seems fair, but it seemed really, really, really horrible, particularly once she trusted him and she knew that he was missing his son. There is no reason for her to not then tell him where the fuel is and let him go at that point. Everything else just feels selfish from her part. Probably it was just the writers going, how are we going to wrap this up? He gets off the planet. How does he get off the planet? She knows where the other ship is. Fine, that'll do. Fuck it, whatever. Let's go down a pub. But yeah, I'm not impressed. Hopefully the next one will be better, and I will be along to speak to you about that momentarily. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. How much time do you think has passed since the last episode?
Hard to say, isn't it? There's no real indication. But presumably a bit, because, yeah, you're right. On the upside, Apollo mentions Serena getting shot.
Yes.
So, continuity good. But you're right, Boxy's acting like it's been a while since his mom died, isn't he? Just messing around with the pilots. Yeah, no worries. Not where in the world.
I like the idea that if it's a planet of cow farmers and hairdressers.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't always find westerns boring. It depends on the type of western. But this is shit. Doesn't matter whether you like westerns or not. It just is shit. I do wonder whether there was a writer's strike, because this is just so different. No.
As Alama God said, the series is made up of like several multi-part stories, like mini movies basically, which is I think what they planned initially, and then they extended it in order to make best use of the sets and stuff to a longer season, and they didn't really have the stories to fill in the gaps, obviously. Shall we find out what Drew and Tracy thought?
Yeah.
We just watched The Lost Warrior.
And what did you think of that?
Oh, it was good, actually.
This is really making me feel nostalgic for Saturday nights when this used to be on the telly. And I don't remember any of the storylines, but I just remember the Cylons.
Yeah.
And I can't help it. I really love the Cylons.
Yeah,
they're the baddies, but they just bring back such a nostalgic feel for me. I love them.
I did say last week that was the only episode I can remember when he's putting the medallion in the thing. As soon as that boy said, "Oh, Red Eye," I was instantly remembered this story.
I think that's a brilliant name for the Cylons.
Yeah, it's good.
Red Eyes.
Good. Yeah.
So why did Apollo's Viper make absolutely no noise when it came in to crash land?
It's a hard landing, I think.
On Equalis?
Yeah, I think that's what's good. How is it gliding? Them things have not really got wings.
Well, no, not really. But why did it make absolutely no noise whatsoever? That was just a bit silly.
Well, no, they actually the saying that the Cylon did say that he was looking for a noise. So
well,
I guess
they might have heard a noise, but there was absolutely no noise in that episode. So the Cylon on a horse—that's the fucking best thing.
Yeah, I know.
Ever.
It did look
I
good.
loved it.
Yeah.
That was just brilliant.
And with the little dents in it, looked good.
And
talking of which, the Space Cowboys this was, wasn't it?
Well, yeah.
And like the silver hats, and the swing door was painted silver.
And this really bugged me. So they're on a planet. I wrote this down. They're on Equalis.
Yeah, I think.
Why does that have to emulate the fucking Wild West?
Well,
it's not even on Earth.
It's just like
they're not even like.
Oh, let's do cowboys in space.
Yeah, but why? It? Oh, when Apollo comes out and they're doing like the standoff with him and Red Eye. Is that what? And they've got like the doors, the saloon doors.
Saloon doors.
Leave it out.
Yeah. No, it's good. It's really tense as well. I liked when Apollo first went to the pub and the guy was bullying him.
Yeah.
And then he went and sat with Red Eye, and then Red Eye got up and was saying about, you want to destroy me. That was a really tense, good moment.
Yeah, but why would Apollo want to go and sit with Red Eye anyway?
Well, because that guy was bullying him, wasn't he, really?
Right, a bully or a red-eye or Cylon, let me tell you, I ain't going to take my chances with a Cylon.
He did want to find out what it was all about, didn't he?
I
He was
guess.
trying a reconnaissance mission.
guess. So this is the second episode now where Apollo is quite happy to get in there with a family. So, like, is it Selena? Or Serena?
Yeah, Serena, yeah.
And Boxy.
Yeah.
Ready-made family there. In the kind of teaser bit at the beginning, I was thinking, oh, he's got another ready-made family here.
Yeah.
A lonely lady and a boy.
I think he was only staying with him, wasn't he?
But I'm actually surprised they didn't kind of get it on.
The boy was a brat, wasn't he?
Yeah, there was absolutely no need for there to be like a woman and a kid, really. Other than to portray the fact that like she's a victim on like her farm and she's trying to protect it and her husband's dead, and it's just a bit of a cliche.
Yeah.
You know, someone for a little bit of Apollo to flirty with.
Yep.
But yeah, it was good. Love Starbuck in this episode.
Yeah, it's good.
Looking after Boxy.
Yep.
Playing poker with the jelly beans.
Oh, yeah,
That was really
right.
funny.
Yes,
Yeah, I did say to you, why are they all drinking fruit juice? Surely they could have some beer or
They
something.
could have done, but you know what it's like in the US. You're not allowed to like drink in front of the children and stuff like that.
I'm not quite happy with like Boxy calling like Adama grandpa and all that. Like, no, don't get it. But anyway, really enjoyed this.
Yeah, I did. I really enjoyed this episode, actually.
Really bringing back some nice memories for
I
me.
absolutely wouldn't have thought that I would have enjoyed a classic Battlestar Galactica as much as I did in this. I just thought it was really good. Well, because I just thought I didn't know they could be this enjoyable. It's a good episode.
Yeah.
Tense, and the story wasn't bad, and it had some good times in it.
I just think this is like typical Saturday night 80s viewing.
Yep, it
Loved
certainly
it.
is.
Anyway, so another one?
Let's hope the next one's as good as
I'm
this.
sure it will be. Happy?
Okay. Yep.
Crack-a-lacking. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, they're remaining upbeat and positive anyway. Excellent.
Yeah. Obviously, Cylon on a horse, that was it. That was
Yes.
sold.
Well, admittedly, it's a striking image, although clearly when he's about to get off, they then cut away, because there ain't no way somebody in that suit's going to get off without help.
No.
And it was a nice touch that the horse had metallic armour as well, to fit in with the whole crazy future Western theme.
Yes, yeah.
But
the boy was a brat.
Yes.
Absolutely.
yeah, quality piece of music, I don't think.
Well, it fits with the quality of this episode. But I get maybe you've got all the nostalgia for it and whatever, but I had no nostalgia or anything for this at all.
It's an oddity for me. Yeah. And if you do enjoy the next one as much, wow. Anyway, let's find out what Purry made of this one.
Hi guys, Purry here to talk about The Lost Warrior, or Battlestar Galactica does a rough estimation of Shane. Not quite as much as other shows have, but it did become a bit of a trope of reenacting the Western Shane, of having one of your crew turn up in a town that's like the Old West for whatever reason, and have to deal with have a gunfight and then leave at the end, usually after bonding with a small boy. In this case, we also have Apollo bonding with the small boy's mum, which does make you think Apollo seems to be a bit of a single mum magnet. What was that? His wife's barely in the ground and he's already beginning to chat up another single mum. I was joking when Starbuck said that Boxy's not going to lose another parent. No, but he may well have nearly acquired a brother, so because of Apollo. But instead, Boxy actually, for some reason, can wander in and out of the control room. Yeah, that's weird. No one says why is a small child in the kind of command center of a giant Battlestar, but it's Boxy, so there you go. And because Apollo's late home and possibly missing, Starbuck and Boomer very kindly decide to ruin everyone's evening. So the entire pilot corps is stuck betting for jelly beans, not allowed to drink booze. I'd like to think that some of the pilots were sneaking off in the background and sipping from flasks or something like that, because that looked like a horrendous evening. And I've got to admit, Boxy is really grating every time he appears, him and his poor disturbed chimp. On the planet, there's a Cylon enforcer for someone. It's damaged, and I thought that was quite a neat thing. But the whole Western planet looked so naff. Because they tried to make like a lot of the Western tropes, like the clothing and the cowboy hats, but out of kind of space plastic, and it just looks so cheap. It's very of its time, so I wasn't too keen on that. I do like the way they're finding these human colonies, though. What surprised me in this one was that they didn't then say, "Should we pick you up or should we stop?" I mean, they seem to have a lot of farm animals and that sort of thing. Stop and barter for food, see if people want to come with them. I had that kind of fear at the end, when that son who had a stupid name and his mum were lying looking up at the sky saying, "Will he come back?" The answer is no, kids. He's trying to find Earth. But also that you didn't then just see a horde of Cylon raiders plummeting, because they are following the Galactica, and Planet of Humans, best exterminatus. So yeah, that was kind of a bit weird, but this was enjoyable fluff. But it's not actually been up to the quality of the last few episodes, which the last few episodes were kind of surprising. This is much more of how I remember Galactica being, sort of a bit daft and, a bit light, rather than, the other ones have had, it's still been light and fun, and definitely much more fun than the remake series, but the older episodes had a little backbone to them, a little sort of arc plotting, whereas this one just seemed to be kind of an aside. We'll do a Western. Why? Because apparently Richard Hatch wants to quick draw a Cylon. I don't know. So a bit weird, but passed the time, didn't it? It's not awful. I wasn't hating seeing it. It's just it was not doing anything particularly original or particularly fun. So I'll be back shortly to talk about The Long Patrol. But until then, bye for now.
Bye. Yes, I'm very much with you. It's not awful, but it's not great.
I just hated it. I really hated it. You're right. Apollo is something of a single mum magnet.
Yeah, I mean, at least he doesn't pull any moves on her or anything. But yes, apparently he's very fanciful.
Well, yeah, but he does seem to have a single mum thing going on. Drew and Tracy mentioned it as well. And yeah, way to ruin everyone's evening. Let's have the child come. And you can't possibly have alcohol.
Hey, it could be worse. They could be playing CBeebies on the TV. Everybody's going to put up with bloody Justin all night.
Oh,
instead of the porn they had planned to watch.
Now my brain's gone to a really fucked up place of Mr. Tumble porn.
No!
I do not want to
we
go
don't need
there.
that.
Where is the mind bleach?
I'll fetch you another can as we move on to our next episode.
Yes, please.
Leaving our star system, Boxy. They removed the laser generator.
That makes sense. Get rid of the laser generators and you're unarmed.
Been wasting your lives. You haven't helped the colonies. You just kept the enforcers in power.
Commander, we must assume a Cylon has captured or killed Lieutenant Starbuck.
Cylons! You see, I told you he's a Cylon spy!
If I am, I'm in big trouble.
So the Long Patrol, a.k.a. one of our pilots, are missing. Again! Because it's not like they're short on ideas or anything at all.
No, they have lots of things they could be doing instead. Obviously.
Boxy's on the bridge again for no good reason. Is there no crash in the fleet, surely? Apollo explains they're leaving their star system, which at least gives a nice sort of sense of progression. That's good.
Yeah.
Starbuck has volunteered to fly a Recon Viper in return for getting a meal on the Rising Star, their new luxury restaurant. Have you had a meal at the Rising Star? It's not quite the Harvester, is it? But
Have you ever been to the Rising Star before?
Athena.
All the people I ever know have eaten there have got food poisoning.
Allegedly.
Oh, okay.
Athena skives off to share the meal with Starbuck, leaving Adama and Ty to man the communications on their own or something. Can't be right.
But couldn't they have Platywoman?
Yeah, right, Jaws. No sign of her. Or is it Omega, that chap? No sign of him either. Anyway, it's good to see the Rising Star again. Almost forgotten that there were ships in the fleet besides Galactica, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's a very catfish-looking design. The reboot has got a much better version, if I remember rightly. Anyway, it turns out, comedy, Starbuck has already taken Cassiopeia. Here we go again.
My notes just say Starbuck is a cunt.
Yeah, scumbag. Anyway,
No, Scumbag isn't strong enough.
All right.
Starbuck is a cunt.
Right. He bribes the maitre d' to provide a private room and some wine. Yeah. Cassiopeia pops out, not like that, of the room. And Athena turns up. Yes, we've done this, and it wasn't pretty the first time, was it?
No, it's awful.
Another bribe gives him a second room. He's learnt from his lesson now. You see 2 separate rooms. And Starbuck darts between the two like some sort of comedy Lothario. Oh, my sides are splitting. Oh, boy.
I'll be splitting his fucking head if he comes anywhere near me.
Then he gets called to duty. And he snogs them both goodbye and gives them both an identical ring.
Oh, what a cunt.
Which presumably he got from a Kinder Egg or something.
Pound World. Because you know they're doing
yes,
Pound World engagement rings
for
Valentine's.
The maitre d' admires him for it.
Oh, he's a cunt.
He may as well have gone, suit you, sir. Oh, 2 ladies at the same time, sir. Suit you. Anyway, once he's left, the 2 women bump into each other in the corridor with comedic consequences.
No, it's not comedic consequences. I like what our son said. He said he wanted RoboCop to turn up and shoot Starbuck in the willy.
Yes, we may have watched RoboCop with him recently, and it's clearly had an effect. Anybody being anything like dodgy gets shot in the bollocks now, apparently.
Yeah.
What have we done to our son?
No, I completely approve.
Anyway, Starbuck is sporting a naff beige outfit and crap helmet, apparently to avoid giving away that he's a warrior. But as you pointed out, the fact he's driving a Viper is a bit of a giveaway.
Isn't it, though? Like, really? Oh,
presumably the plan is that he's going to park way out of town and then wander in, but anyway, it doesn't work out that way.
No.
Boomer jokes that he's never looked like a pilot in the first place, which is nice.
Yeah.
A lot of respect for Boomer in this, because he's not a...
He's not a cunt.
Thank you. Apparently the Recon Viper has doubled range and speed, capable of more than light speed. Hey? How does that not squish them? Those tights they wear underneath must be bloody good.
Oh, yeah. It's those compression suits, that's what it is.
Yeah. It also has a voice-activated flight computer called Cora.
We all adore Cora.
Except you don't very much.
Oh, it's fucking annoying voice. It's like, I don't necessarily object to the principle of like a sat-nav or whatever, but, Starbuck's all, clearly has his toxic masculinity threatened by this sat-nav thing, but I would find her fucking annoying, and I would smash the ship up.
Change the voice setting is my advice, but anyway, it's got the same blinky red voice light thing that Kit has. Funny that.
Yeah, but Kit doesn't sound like that.
No, and there's lots of arguing between them. Yeah. This ship has no armaments to save weight, which, of course, is important in space, isn't it, to be saving weight?
Yeah, absolutely. Makes a massive difference.
I mean, you can argue these things also go in the atmosphere, so then it makes sense, but then again, they're not going to be going super fast in the atmospheres. Never mind.
Well, and the only thing I could think of here, but you'll have to help me out there, is it something to do, it's not so much saving weight as saving space.
For bigger engines, that would make more sense, but its weight is what they say.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, because space would work.
Yes, it would. And there's still a fire button on the joystick as well. That's really disappointing, isn't it, when you press that?
Yeah, they can't fire anything.
Oh, yeah, there's nothing to do.
And what happens is you press it, and it's like an airplane, there's a fireplace appears. Fire makes a fireplace appear,
Very
you
good.
see, and it calms you down, you see. And it's nice and relaxing when you're about to be shot.
Anyway, it comes across a dogfight between Crode, who's played by Ted Gehring, who appeared in all the Larson and Mash. He has a very Viper-like designed ship, which means they can reuse the cockpit set. And Robber, played by James Whitmore Jr., who would go on to a career as a TV director, apparently, helming episodes of shows such as NCIS.
Right.
And he was an actor in a lot of the Larson shows as well. And the settle for his shuttle will get repurposed as the exterior of the Colonial shuttle in the next story. So lots of saving money, and there's more of that to come.
Yes, just a little bit.
Starbuck lands to assist Robber, who turns out to have an Irish accent.
Oh, don't. It's like the fucking Bring Lloyd in Next Gen.
All over again, yeah. I suspect that to be a tad on the crap side, considering apparently he was born in New York. I mean, obviously there is an Irish community in New York.
Yeah, but they don't sound like that, though, do they?
He claims the pirates attacking him came from the Frodo system. Yes, apparently it's next to the Samwise system. Turns out he's transporting bootleg booze. Hooray!
Yay.
It's Smoking the Bandit all over again.
Except it's not, though. It's custard, because it's called ambrosia. Ambrosia, Devon, custard.
Tasty. Yeah, Starbuck samples it, then gets bottled by robber who steals his ship. Oh! Good competent officer there. Yes. Robber sends out a message with both Galactica and nearby Battlestar picks up. Apparently it's commanded by Boltar, so somehow he escaped from under the pillar.
Oh, we knew he would just because reasons.
Yeah, but no reasons are given. It's like he's just there.
Yeah, but it's like, Halloween after a while, isn't it?
Yeah, and is this a new Lucifer? Because I'm sure the old one didn't have glow-up lips like this one.
No, his lips glow purple when he speaks, and he can't walk. But the blue, the purpley blue lips that light up. No,
yeah. I mean, it was already looking weird, but add the lips and
it looks even.
You may as well go
weirder.
for a big Mr. Potato Head conch and glasses next, to be honest.
Yeah, it's weird.
And
or give it hair, like the weird shit hair on the. What was it called? The lizard shit thing. What was it called? Imperious Leader?
Right, yeah, the brain. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, the guy inside the Lucifer suit, I did a bit of research, is Felix Silla, a person of short stature who was also in the Tweaky suit in season 2 of Buck Rogers. Was Cousin It in the original Addams Family, and an Ewok in Return of the Jedi. Also, one of the Dinks. Remember the Dinks in Spaceballs? One of the Jawas, effectively. One of the Telosians in The Cage. And was Crazed Clown in Kentucky Fried Movie.
Okay.
There's a role. Apollo and Boomer are sent out to destroy the Viper, assuming Starbuck is dead. Again. This is the second time they've gone, oh, Starbuck hasn't come back, he must be dead.
And the thing is, they're like, Apollo might be dead.
Yeah, let's send out
we must do
searching.
7 million things.
Yeah.
When it's Starbuck, because he's such a cunt. Like, oh, he's dead. Fuck it.
Yep. Anyway, Starbuck takes off in the shuttle and is fired upon by Crode before he explains things. Then he's taken to a military base on Proteus, which is a nice glass shot, to be fair. Nice mat. And he gets knocked out again, waking up in a prison cell. We meet Assault 9, who's played by Sean McClory, who was in a lot of Western shows and Lost in Space.
Which Lost in Space?
As in the original.
The original one, okay.
Yeah. Judging by his name, his Irish accent's probably closer to the mark.
Yeah.
Although he has got a beard that looks less than real.
It does, doesn't it? It looks a bit Monty Python. You know, when all the women put the beards on?
Yeah, I don't want to buy a beard. Yeah. Forger 7, he's the one with the sort of purple John Lennon glasses. Played by Ian Abercrombie. He's got such an amazing CV. He was in Voyager. Was the voice of Darth Sidious in the Clone War cartoons. Was in Ice Pirates.
Oh, I love that film.
It's
terrible, but I love it.
Was in Army of Darkness.
Oh, I love that one too.
Played Wise Man. I think it's the sort of wizardy guy. He was the alien in Babylon 5, whose name is pretty much unpronounceable, and he's the one who insists that Ivanova has sex with him to seal a treaty.
Oh, yes!
Yeah.
Boom shakalaka.
That's the one.
Yeah.
So, he's done pretty well for himself.
Yeah.
And Adulteress 58, who's played by one Arlene Martell. Does that name ring any bells?
It does, but you know me,
Yeah.
I don't know why.
She played T'Pring, Spock's wife in A Mock Time.
Okay.
She was also in an amazing sounding film called Dracula's Dog.
I want to watch that. Where is
Yes.
it? How do I find it? Tell me now.
Our friend Matt Hood, who's something of an expert on horror films, does recommend it, apparently.
No, want to see it now. Where is it? Find it now.
Anyway, she asks what kind of offence star booking is.
I love it. Well, it's basically
Two timing, basically.
people.
Yeah. Turns out they're ancestors of the original sinners, imprisoned because of their ancestors' crimes, which explains the kids in the cells with them. And they spent 700 yarans making ambrosia. And drinking it, by the sounds of it, as well.
Yeah.
Athena meets with Cassiopeia and tells her that Starbuck is probably lost, which makes her a far better human being than Starbuck, of course. They pick up another transmission from the Recon Viper, and Cassiopeia recognises it as an Aryan... Aryan? It's something like Aryan, isn't it? But
It does sound like Aryan.
that's a bit worrying.
No, but no. As in, not Aryan like...
Blonde Nazi.
No, like their version of Ares.
Oh, right. Yes, that's probably what they were getting at. But...
So, as in, they didn't think it through.
Yeah.
They took Ares in the same way as they've made all the other ones.
Yeah,
you know,
Taurans and all that.
Yeah, and Sagittarion and all the rest
Yeah.
of it. They haven't thought what taking Ares and
Yeah.
putting on the end would sound like.
Yeah. Anyway, Adama calls Apollo and Boomer to not fire just in time. Athena congratulates her rival, but they seem to indicate they're still competing after Star Slug when he returns.
I know, it's like nothing's going to be any different when he gets back. And it's like, and then
we'll still put up with him two-timing us.
Cassie says, I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, I fucking would. I'd have a slug over him. Punch him in the face, or the bollocks, or both. Tell him he's a cunt. Stick him out an airlock.
They were different.
Bastard!
They were clearly different times in the 70s.
Clearly, this was fucking written by men.
Mm-hmm. As Apollo and Boomer hunt Robber, we're back in the Western set from the last story. Cheap. Do all the outer colonies look like the Wild West? It's like, they're fired upon and chase after the thief. Boomer nearly shoots a child that turns out to be part of Robber's family. When the fleet spots silent raiders heading towards the Recon Viper's location, Adama orders them to put as much distance from them as possible, leaving Apollo and Boomer not knowing where they'll be. So, he's a strong commander, you'll give him that.
Yeah.
Boxy just strolls onto the bridge again to have a one-to-one with his granddad.
Oh,
who's only...
Granddad, we love you.
Yeah, he's only commander of the fleet and member of the Council of 12. He's nobody important.
No, but he's clearly got a packet of Werther's originals under his desk, hasn't he?
Starbuck gets renamed Bootlegger 127.
Oh.
Yes, and he's presented with his daily ration of Ambrosia by an enforcer. Yeah, who's played by Robert Hathaway, who's Noah Boxy Hathaway's dad.
Oh, ha this way, ha Hathaway.
Again. Anyway, surely if all they're drinking is Ambrosia, surely these prisoners would have died from liver failure long ago. Starbuck discovers the cell doors aren't locked.
Wow.
But none of the other prisoners are escaping as they've all been institutionalised, basically. Crow turns up to teach Starbuck a lesson, but the pilot reveals who he truly is. The fleet haven't received any of the shipments of Ambrosia that the prisoners have been making, pointing out the prison colonies have been long forgotten. The prisoners revolt, finally, and the cavalry turn up in the shape of Apollo and Boomer. Starbuck declares they're rich, but Apollo points out that Cylons are on the way, and sure enough, raiders turn up and start blasting the prison, with some impressive explosions going off, it has to be said. The pilots take to the skies, with Starbuck back in the Recon Viper using Cora to distract the raiders and getting one to crash, but unfortunately igniting the Ambrosia. Wah, wah, wah. Somehow, we're not told how, considering the fleet moved and stranded them. The pilots return. There's absolutely no explanation for how they found them. Never mind. And we've no idea what happened to the other colonists. Presumably the enforcers were strung up, but all we know is that Robber and his family have joined the fleet for a meal on the Rising Star. Don't think we'll be seeing them again, I hope. Boxy has done a picture of our star system for his dad, but Starbuck realises it's not accurate since it doesn't match the picture on his cell wall. Because that's the repository of all wisdom, isn't it? Pictures on a cell wall.
Wow.
It's another not particularly helpful hint as to Earth's location. Clearly the series was planning on playing a long game with this, which is unfortunate considering they don't get the time for that. It's a very, very odd story. There's an interesting concept hidden there about the generational prisoners, but it only comes out right at the end, so it isn't explored. Plus, one of our pilots is missing was the plot last week.
I know.
And what happened with Boltar? He's suddenly back.
Yeah, and it's...
Guess who's back?
One of our pilots is missing, and he's the one we don't give a fuck about.
Yes.
So can't we just leave him behind and carry on?
Yeah, I really hope we don't get any more of Starbuck's two-timing escapades. That is very sad.
And it's not just that. Is it because, some guys might be like that, and they're horrible. Fine. It's the way that they've written the women as if we're still going to compete for him.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, that's the worst bit of it all by
It's just terrible. Get with each other. Or with different men.
See, that I would watch.
Or with different men. Or just be single and be happy. It doesn't matter which of those things you do. Right? Just don't be with him.
Don't put up with being lied to. That's the important thing. I mean, what a piece of poo he is. What did everybody else think?
We've heard from Doreen, who writes, "Oh boy, did Starbuck's Playboy ways annoy me." Yep. He's also playing with fire, treating the commander's daughter like that. Commander Adama is really starting to grow on me.
Yeah, he's great.
Couldn't really follow the writers on their very weird misunderstanding of original sin.
It's not quite the Roman Catholic doctrine as we know it, no.
When they also added the really silly idea of a prison without locks, I was utterly out of the story. I mean, I understand that many people are stuck in prisons without obvious walls, but an entire society? For generation after generation?
That Ambrose's strong stuff is all I can say. And it's
Especially
all they get to drink.
Oh. Especially when Starbuck discovered his cell wasn't locked, and then the guard cowers and runs away.
Flee.
I guess this is my equivalent of being scared all the time, but then playing board games. Discovery reference there.
Yes.
However, I'm prepared to believe they couldn't understand this one, because I'm too caught up in my own problems at the moment. I imagine the closing voiceover for this one was, a single Galactica writer led a ragtag group of work experience and YTS kids on a lonely quest to make an episode called The Long Patrol.
Or possibly a bunch of chimps. I think it's probably more likely.
Well, they were all going mad having escaped from the bloody Muffet suit.
Yeah. Thank you, Doreen.
Thank you.
Hope things improve for you guys.
Yes.
We've heard from Jeff Hyman. The Long Patrol featured one of my favourite Doctor Who / Star Trek tropes. A civilization based completely on a single premise taken to absurd extremes.
Yeah.
Sadly, it didn't focus much on this aspect, and the sudden collapse of society in about 30 seconds was kind of stupid.
Yep.
When I found Starbuck's attempt to Archie, Cassiopeia and Athena mildly amusing, I don't understand why they still want anything to do with him. Is he really worth fighting over?
Yeah. I mean, I didn't find them amusing, but given the period in which this is written, I'm kind of not as surprised there's a character like that, but their reactions make no sense and are very annoying.
There's tons of eligible bachelors in the fleet. I bet
Exactly.
Boomer would never two-time you. He probably wouldn't, but I suspect he's got a thing going with Jolly, so that would be why.
Isn't he the one that gets called Gillies, or is that something?
No, that's Giles.
Okay, it's Jolly Porntash.
Yes.
Yeah, I can see Boomer and Porntash, to be fair.
Anyway, a lot happened on that planet in the previous story that we didn't see.
What are we like?
Broken.
Okay.
Mainly by this show, as deserved
I
at
think
this
so.
point. Okay. Next we hear from...
Ol!
Yes.
Hello again, Peter and Anne-Marie. It's Ol again, and I'm here to talk about The Long Patrol. It's a better episode than the last one, but I really hated that one, so it was probably not a challenge for it to be. It's interesting that after doing a Western last time round, this time they're doing the old comedy trope of inviting two women to dinner and trying to swap between the tables. I mean, it's 10 minutes of that before anything really happens in this. I mean, it is what it is. It's all right. It's just not really what we've signed up for. We want space adventure. We don't want people having dinner at each other. Even someone as charming as Dirk Benedict can't really sell that, I'll be honest. Then we get into the meat of the plot, which is Starbuck going off on a long patrol. He's got an AI, but we don't find out much more about the AI. It's not really the point. And he bumps into some suspicious Irish stereotypes who are bootlegging some whiskey or wine or whatever ambrosia is supposed to be. Given the fact that it's aged, I'm going to guess whiskey, although whiskey doesn't age in the bottle, so it can't be that. Oh, who knows? But yes, it is Planet of the Irish Stereotypes. Funny enough, Star Trek will mind that particular seam of story idea down the line, but it's not the best, is it? There's something generically science fictionally interesting about the prison where everyone's been there for so long and for generations and generations serving out the terms of their ancestors that everyone's forgotten why they're there almost, that they can just walk out at any time, but they don't because they're prisoners and that's the way of the world. There's something quite interesting about that. I'm not sure it's handled in the most interesting way here, but at least there's a thought there, which is more than there was with the last one. We've also got the Cylons back, which having them back as an actual threat to the main fleet is so much better than just having one of them with dents in his head. And Boltar, for the few seconds we get him on screen, is nice to see him again. At least we know he's there. There is the issue of exactly how far they've travelled, because they talk about at the beginning of this episode moving into a whole new galaxy, having left their existing star system. Now, if they've only just left their original star system, then they took a long time to do it. But if they've gone through intergalactic space in the meantime, they must have gone incredibly fast. Andy Palastides is very fond of announcing that space is big, really, really big. Well, the distances between galaxies are so incomprehensibly vast that we're well beyond going down to the shops to the chemist. I suspect this is just writers picking words at random, not knowing what they mean, and that always annoys me. It annoys me in Doctor Who, where star system, constellation and galaxy used virtually interchangeably for the first 26 years. But anyway, at the end there's a nice bit of space battle. It's interesting, the space battle was obviously all recycled stock footage, because they all are. But it's interesting that it's actually kind of hard, even if it wasn't recycled footage, I don't think it would have been a very engaging space battle, because there was nothing interesting about it. It was just ships shooting at each other. If you think back to the really interesting space battles from Star Wars, good example, there's the trench run on the Death Star where ships are flying down a canyon and other ships coming in behind them. That's easy to understand. There's the Battle of Scarif where they're trying to shoot down the shield generator. Again, easy to understand. If you've just got lots of ships flying around shooting at each other, it's nowhere near as interesting. I think Return of the Jedi probably bears that out, as well as lots of other examples from sci-fi films in general. And this felt like the latter. There was nothing to grab hold of and be interested in this particular battle. It was just, this is a battle, this is the way it's happening. You're either on board or you're not. But overall, it's a definite improvement over just random Western with tin hats. And it's remembered that there is a core mythology to this show, that they are looking for Earth, and they are starting to put clues in there to show that they're on the right track, which I think they had to do, and I think it's important to keep that going. Anyway, it's been a pleasure to hear your first episode, which I have at this point. I'm really enjoying the podcast, and I'm really enjoying the show, for all that these weren't the two most inspiring episodes ever. Let's hope the next couple are a bit better. Thank you ever so much for the podcast, and I will speak to you next time, hopefully. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks all.
Thank you. I don't understand distances in space, so your issues with it, I'm afraid they go totally over my head.
Yeah, but you do get the impression that, rather like Doctor Who, they are picking words at random that sound spacey.
I wouldn't know. Honestly, I mean,
all I get is it's basically, you've just got the impression they're travelling, which I guess is all we need, but it's unfortunate if they're misusing terms, so that people who know what the terms mean, therefore...
Fair enough. Fair enough. I can't prefer this to the other one.
No, I think that the Starbuck business really just... If you cut that out of it, yes, it would have been a better story than the previous one.
I think you're right.
Yeah, but that Starbuck business, particularly since it's right at the beginning as well... Yeah. It's just sitting there going, oh, this is what I remembered the series being like. I remembered it being like this every week, and hence it was a long while before I revisited it. Thankfully, it's not like this every week, but, it is yuck.
Yeah, but thank you for your kind words about our podcast. It's nice of you. Are the next ones better, though?
Well, I'm hoping so, but more of that later.
Okay. What did the Llama God make of this?
Oh, yes, this is a commander. Rainbow takes the frosted luggage, arms, leprechauns, etc. Well, this is a difficult and problematic episode, isn't it? Oi, bigor, we find the Irish. They all be charming rogue-type people who all deserve to live in prisons, and yeah, okay, there's definitely a slight amount of prejudice and stereotyping going on there, and this is all massively uncomfortable, isn't it, really? I mean, obviously, anytime any sort of science fiction series of the era goes for alien colonies, and I know this isn't an alien colony, this is a weird thing where they find this whole colony of the Irish, and obviously the ragtag fleet is the last of humanity, apart from all the rest of humanity that they're finding along the way. But at least an explanation is given as to why the asteroid full of wine is there. But yeah, I mean, your typical science fiction shows of these times would have had the colonies of a various individual ethnicity, and quite often they'd be problematic. See also TNG Season 1 with its very progressive World of the Black People and World of the Women. Yeah, okay, this doesn't get better anytime sooner, but still, it doesn't stop it from being problematic, even if you can excuse it being of the time. And whilst the idea that the people have been prisoners on the asteroid for so long, that's become their identity, they really don't know how to do anything different. The story doesn't actually explore that at all, it's just a predicament that Starbuck finds himself in. So, yeah. Speaking of Starbuck, he's a bit of a disappointment this week. After rather liking what he did last week, showing a bit of a gentler side, here we have him going back to being his womanizer, and you've got the comedy of him trying to seduce two women at the same time, and it all going hilariously wrong. Yeah, anyway. Anne-Marie came up with some good explanation for his behaviour in the pilot, and I actually agree with you, and I kind of did think about that, but I think by now things should have changed, and yeah, his behaviour is pretty inexcusable in this one. The main thing that's interesting about this episode, really, and this is more from a geeky being anal about spaceships point of view, is that I think we discovered that the ships actually have FTL capability. I mean, we never see the same warping effect that you get from Star Trek or anything, and again, we didn't actually see that in the original series of Star Trek either. But the Galactica has now arrived in a new galaxy, and obviously they couldn't have crossed galaxies without FTL travel. I mean, even if the galaxies are really close together, in space terms, they're really far apart. And I think there is a line that they use about Starbuck's Viper, that it does have faster-than-light capability, so maybe this is confirmation that the fleet has faster-than-light travel, and this can explain why they can cover great distances, so that's good to know. Although, of course, physics has never been a strong point of the series, given that Starbuck's going to disrupt some of the fighters with his backwash, because he'll be disturbing the complete absence of anything that's in space. Yeah, don't know how that's going to work. But yeah, I mean, you don't expect that from this series, really. Less interesting was the typical comedy computer that was installed in Starbuck's Viper that he ends up flirting with. So again, that's a thing at the time. But yeah, unfortunately, I'm afraid to say this pair of episodes I've not been that impressed with, because they are signs of them moving to series without them actually knowing what they're going to do with the series. And admittedly, this is something that happens in a lot of shows. I mean, just less so Deep Space Nine, but you look at TNG and others, and you'll see that after a strong pilot, shows can, in any genre really, they can get weak if they don't really have a plan for where they've been going after the first couple of episodes. They're kind of winging it to the end of the season. So not unique, probably unique to Galactica, but definitely wasn't particularly thrilled by this week's pair of episodes, unfortunately. But still, I will nevertheless be interested to hear what the rest of you have to say, and I will continue feeding back to these series. And so say we orcs.
Very good.
Very good.
Yes, that's true. The Orish aspect of it isn't good as well. To be honest, I'd kind of forgotten about that, just simply because of the Starbuck business.
Yeah, but neither of them are good.
No.
No.
And I forgot about the backwash as well.
It makes no sense.
What
does
the
it?
hell was that about?
That's you get that on Rivers, don't you?
Yeah.
Because Rivers and Space, they are the same thing.
They are, apparently.
Even I know they're not.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Who else we heard from?
Drew and Tracy.
So that was The Long Patrol.
Yep.
And that was my crap version of...
It was good.
The theme tune. Sing the theme tune. I do love that music.
It is good.
I do love it.
What about the episode then? Did you love that?
It was a bit mixed, this one, for me.
Yeah.
As much as I enjoyed it, there was a lot that was quite pissing me off.
It was once again quite random. I thought.
Very random. Yeah, where did it fit into any kind of storyline? So let's just get this out of the way. Cora.
Yes, I know.
The most uncomputer-like computer.
Why would anyone program a computer with attitude?
Yeah, it was having a right strop, wasn't it? And also, I was like, when the I can't remember what his name was now. The Irish guy.
Robber.
The pirate, yeah, Robber. When he got into the
Viper.
Yeah, Recon Viper 1.
Yeah.
And he was like putting in his coordinates and she was saying identify. Why did she not just go, listen, she had the attitude for it. Why didn't she just go, now look here, mate, this is not moving until you identify yourself.
I don't know.
It was ridiculous. So she was like, identify. Then he punched in his coordinates and she's like, yeah, all right.
She was just programmed to, like, obey. I don't know. It was rubbish, though, wasn't it?
Why were all the prisoners Irish?
Because they was making out they was...
all bootleggers.
Like,
they're not well, they were bootleggers, I guess.
Dummies, wasn't they? And that's like a bit of a trope, isn't it? To sort
that's just outrageous.
To like make them Irish because it's it's pretty terrible.
What is this, Ambrosia?
Well, Ambrosia's like nectar of the gods thing, isn't it?
Well, I know what ambrosia is, but that's
booze,
not kind of
it,
implying what that is. That looked like a cheaper knockoff Prosecco or something.
I know.
When he pulled the thing
I
out.
was just going to say that, like a plastic stopper in it. Oh yeah, this is 1,000 yards old with a plastic stopper in it, like some like Diamond White or something. Or
most poppers, you got a flipping twist and turn, and it takes you about 10 minutes to get it out, and then you get whacked in the eyeball with it. That came out far too easy. So Starbuck
at
with
the
his
beginning,
double dating,
I know it was.
Oh, it's just ridiculous.
Laughing,
it was laughing. How much did that waiter though, like, just rip him off?
It's a good comedy moment, actually. It's funny.
It was all right. When he was in the room with not Athena, the other girl, I can't think what her name was.
I don't know what her name is yet.
When she was kind of stretched back on him, I said to you, he's just grabbed her boob.
I know,
it was her hand in the end. I thought, that's a bit racy for a 1980s TV show on a Saturday afternoon evening.
Mm. Yes. I really thought this wasn't as good as last week's. And last week's was like a bit exciting, but this is just like just a bit pedestrian and too random.
I'm really hating this boxy kind of relationship thing. It's just a bit boring.
Good character,
although I do think Adama makes a really cracking granddad.
Yeah, he's good.
And he's just the kind of
He's just
person
good
you
actor,
do want to.
isn't
Yeah,
he?
but he just portrays that, like he's the commander of a spaceship, but he's also got a love inside, and he thinks nothing of having like a little one curled up on his knee, and I think that's quite cute.
It is.
But we can just have lesser boxy.
Yeah, definitely.
Not feeling it with that. Anyway.
Yeah, so not quite as good this one, but it's alright.
Still enjoyed it. There wasn't hardly any Cylon action in there.
No, it's a good
for
point.
me. There was
It's
you
a
saw
good
them
point,
about
yeah.
3 times. You saw Boltar for about 2 seconds, didn't you, with Mr. Disco Head? So no, and all the Cylons did was like they appeared in the ship, didn't they? They moved from side to side.
That's what they ever do, isn't it?
Yeah, why do they always appear in 3s in a ship? Why is there 3 to a ship? There's like 2 in front and then 1 standing over their shoulders.
I remember having Battlestar Galactica annual, like from back in the day, and I think it said they need 3 of them to pilot the ship. I think.
Really?
It's a memory, don't know, because they're not as good as humans, kind of thing. How that works, I don't know.
I'm sure they would disagree with that.
Anyway, let's leave it there, shall we?
And let's have some more Cylons.
Yep,
please.
more Cylon action next.
And less boxy.
Yep.
Yes. All right then, leave it there.
Yep.
Crack-a-lackin'. See you later. Bye.
Bye. Now you need 3 Cylons in every raider. There's 1 to fly it, 1 to shoot the weapons and miss, and the other 1 to look up to the right-hand side when yet again the Viper pulls that manoeuvre where they put the brakes on.
Good point. Why didn't Cora just refuse to go anywhere?
Yeah.
Where's Starbuck? You're not Starbuck. Right, I'm not going anywhere.
And why haven't they got ignition keys in their Vipers as well to stop people doing that?
Or if you don't need an ignition key, a password or
Yeah.
something.
Yep.
Or it looks like they've got voice recognition. So why doesn't it fucking work?
Yeah.
And yeah, plastic stopper. Yeah, I'm with you. That was diamond white. That's what that was.
Quality, or Blue Nun, maybe. But yes, Adama is a cracking Grandad Gromit, definitely.
Grandad.
Yes, we are not playing out on that tune.
We're playing out to a western town in a dead-end world.
Possibly. Certainly looking that way.
Who else we heard from? We heard from Purry.
We have indeed.
Hello again, Purry here to talk about The Long Patrol. This one's a bit of a mixed bag. It's got some interesting stuff in it, which I don't feel we really got to look at closely enough. To an extent, we had an idea which wouldn't look out of place in an episode of Star Trek. And I was joking that there was kind of the sliding scale of old sci-fi campness, with kind of Star Trek in the very much, well, not too camp, going through Battlestar Galactica to Buck Rogers, which is incredibly camp. But this one had almost stuff that was slightly less just a bit more serious. So they had the idea of a planet which is full of people who are only known by the crimes that their ancestors committed. And basically it's a penal colony that's been left to rot, and that the enforcers kind of inherit their positions, as do the criminals, and everyone seems to make ambrosia and get drunk. The first problem with this was everyone was given really dodgy Irish accents. I think, were they going for the idea that those were Aryan? Aryan sounds awful, but from the planet Ares, or Aerolon, or whatever it's called, I think, were they going for the idea that that was the local accent of the area? Because it is a good idea. I think they try something similar in the new series, but it just sadly, everyone drunk and having dodgy Irish accents feels a lot like doing some really iffy stereotyping there, which wasn't particularly good. And it's a shame that the whole concept of the penal colony actually kind of gets picked up, explained, and then ditched because the Cylons come and start strafing everything. And that was a bit of a shame. We do also get to see they've made a recon raptor. Sadly, they've not made it look any different. But it does get involved when... I'm curious if that computer in it will turn up ever again, but it does make sense in a recon ship to have a better autopilot, because if it's going long range, then to keep the pilot fresh, you might actually give it an autopilot for, if he's doing recon, he's basically going to be flying in a straight line for ages and ages. So yeah, it's not a bad idea, but a lot of it was him swishing about with this slightly sarcastic female computer talking to Starbuck, and again, that was a little bit tedious. So there was a solid idea in this. There were some half-decent action scenes. And And, I mean, there was also some stuff going on. Once again, Boxy's upset because Apollo's not home. They really should arrange babysitters for him, because otherwise he's just going to wander into headquarters. What I've noticed as well is Adamas, when Boxy turns up, suddenly turns from proud leader of and commander of the last Battlestar to cuddly space granddad. He's sitting in the command centre, presumably meant to be running a giant spaceship, but no, he's got time to sit down, turn round, and have story time. Of course he does. Yeah. So that was a thing. So again, I think this episode is a bit better. I liked it better than the last one. It had a couple of hints at the supply situation. So Ambrosia is still hard to come by, but they've now got enough food that they've opened up the Rising Star for luxury, and the idea being to give it everyone in the fleet a sort of small taste of luxury is quite a good idea, actually, to keep morale up. But what I didn't understand was, it's one of these things that gets at me when we have these situations. Starbuck's bribing people. What is the colonial qubit actually worth these days? What would I think generally having your planet bombed in submission tends to devalue your local currency, but yet everyone still seems to accept it. It's kind of one of those bizarre things. So yeah, this one, and it had some links to the Arc plot. It had the map and of finding a map of Earth's solar system. That was kind of interesting. But yeah, so this one I think had some good concepts. I'd just like to have seen more of that concept explored, and less of Starbuck mucking about in his fighter and Boxy getting story time. I think that would have made the episode a lot better. Oh, and also this whole Starbuck Cassiopeia Athena thing, that was tedious too. That was just, can we get this over with? Because it's very 70s. So yeah, the standalone episodes seem to have be a bit more as I expected this series to be, a bit more from what I remember. But hopefully the next one's a two-parter, so hopefully that should have a bit more for us to get our teeth into. So do keep up the good work. I'll also look forward to the podcast, and I'll hopefully feedback for the next two. Until then, bye for now.
Cheers, fella. Yeah, it's definitely the idea isn't. There's a good idea there. It's just not explored at all.
No.
Yeah.
And they need to get babysitters for Boxy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how is Starbuck bribing people? Good point. Well, where's he getting his money from? A cash point? I mean, how's this working exactly?
Well, if everybody in the fleet has qubits as a currency, it will work within the fleet.
Yeah,
it will still have value within the fleet.
No, how is it going to work? Because unless you're recycling the money somehow.
Well, yeah, but that happens through transactions, doesn't it?
How did the military get paid, for instance? Is there taxation? Who's organising the tax collecting in this ragtag fleet? I mean, the whole system doesn't work anymore because they've had to flee their planet. They shouldn't be using money anymore, really.
Well, it depends what the money's made of and how easy it is for them to have it, as it were. But
they can't just create new money. That's just ridiculous.
But if you pay your people who are doing any kind of job in qubits, and they use the qubits to pay for the meal, and the restaurant use the qubits to combined pay for their staff and pay for the food, and the people who grow the food accept qubits, you've still got currency going round within an economy. There is an economy within the fleet.
Yeah, but it just wouldn't function. I mean, bartering would make more sense if people were bartering for their services.
Well, no, it wouldn't if all the goods of value have been seized by the military in order to ensure the distribution. Well, I think you saw that in one of the early episodes. So therefore, the only currency is currency, because you can't barter, because the military are controlling access to resources.
Yeah, well, then they're rationing it, Robin.
Of which Boxy and everybody seems to have a lot.
Let's just not go where they got all those jelly beans from, but and where's the food coming from? Let alone the jelly beans. But anyway, you're right that there's a lot that's unexplained. And I'm not saying I've got the whole answer, but for a currency to work, all it takes is buy-in for an economic community. The fleet is an economic community. If they still buy into qubits, it works. There are aspects that are unexplained and might not work, including resources and taxation, but if the whole fleet community buys into the qubit, then there's no reason why that can't continue as a currency. I'm not convinced, but anyway. Let's not get too bogged down on the finances of the fleet. And instead turn to the episodes we'll be covering next time.
Are they better? Tell me they're better.
It's Gone on Ice Planet Zero, parts 1 and 2. Ooh, I do remember this being good.
Oh, okay, that's fair enough.
We'll be recording on Friday the 22nd of February.
Shut it down!
By your command.